Greetings everyone, I am the Mad Scientist, aka Dr. J. It's time to give a quick update video. I've done one of these before, and I'm going to use them as a way to help give all of you who subscribe to my channel an idea as to what's going on with it, and to thank you all for considering me worthy enough of your time to do it. I've got plenty of things I want to talk about, so let's dive right into it. I've been saving this one for the Thresh Guide, and it took a lot longer than I anticipated for it to come out. First, there was the general issue of coming back to college and adjusting to all of that, and so far the transition has been less than smooth. I've been able to carve out specific times for when I do video editing, but I haven't been good at monitoring my free time outside of that. It's something I've been slowly working on. Even before I had carved out those times though, the audio was taking forever because I either got bad allergies, a cold, or both, so that made me sound worse than normal. Another wrench got thrown in that it took a long time to get the abilities demonstration done. My brother is even worse at time management than I am, and we eventually met and took care of it, but it did take a while. Whatever the case may be, there it is. Then there's just the whole process of getting everything edited, which always takes a while. Fortunately, the other reason should come to fruition before too long, because I've also been working on some more long-term things on what little spare time I can scrape out beyond that. Some of you who were around on the first update video might remember when I started something called Through the Looking Glass. Essentially, the idea emerged from the fact that I haven't played a lot of classic games that everyone heralds as being classics, and overall amazing. Because of that, this was a way for me to start fixing that problem, and to experiment with different kinds of content outside of scripted LOL videos. I planned for it to be a mixture of Let's Play and review, where you would get to see me go through all of it as I form my opinion, and then one of my usual scripted videos for my final impression. However, I had the brilliant idea of starting out with Diablo 2, a game that is both horrendously long and not necessarily the most fun to watch. Made even more so by the fact that I am not the greatest when it comes to live commentary. It's as much a means to help me get better at my speaking voice and thinking on the spot as it is a means to enjoy the experience. Because very few people, if any, were actually watching it, I decided that rather than spam everyone's sub inbox, I would make all of the Let's Play style videos unlisted and throw them into a separate playlist. I've gotten the audio about halfway finished for that video, and I'm looking to finish it up soon enough, so if everything goes as planned, you should see that video sometime in December. That seems far away, but considering how quickly exams and homework seem to be popping up, I think it'll stay fairly recent for my liking. So, what can you expect in the next few months? First, I have 2 videos that I know I want to do. Before too long, you will see a behind the scenes video for my process into the Thresh Guide. I'm definitely not an expert at video editing, but since I've had to teach myself a lot and work on a very limited budget, both in terms of hardware and software, I feel my process can be useful to show you how I manage without all the high-end nonsense. That should be coming out within a few weeks, so keep an eye on that. Second, there's the conclusion for Through the Looking Glass, which is a long ways away. Beyond that, I have a lot of ideas for different things to do. Among those, a draft for a potential video to address some of the nonsense we've seen in the gaming industry lately. I'm not going to say too much more than that, since that if you aren't aware of what's going on, then I don't suggest you find out too much because it's an absolute mess. For those of you who know what's going on, it's not completely directed at the issue per se, but more of a discussion on the relationship of how the media and audience interact. I may end up scrapping it, as I don't know if I can verbalize everything correctly, or if I want to risk the nonsense that will be thrown at me if it gets noticed, but I feel it is worth discussing and might be worth my time. As for champion guides, I'm rapidly running out of main champions to do guides on, though I pretty much know for a certain there will be another support guide coming down the line. Fortunately, it will be a support that I am much better at, and for some reason hasn't been banned as often. And no, it's not Morgana, it's the other one that gets banned a lot. I think I might want to wait on that guide until after the preseason changes kick in, just in case items go out of whack again like they did with the last preseason. Looking over the changes, there isn't anything that will directly impact him, but depending on what happens elsewhere, it will be interesting to keep up with. In the meantime, I'm thinking of some other content I can do that might be more regular or more general. I've got the beginning of a couple of scripts on the intricacies of the early game and mid to late game, but both of them need more refinement. Looking through what I've been saying in my guides, even with only 3 on the channel, I'm starting to repeat myself. What I said in my Thresh Guide regarding the mid to late game is very similar to what I did for my Maokai guide, and the early game between Nami and Thresh also crossed a little bit into each other. I feel that a guide of that nature does have its place, although I don't think I can avoid repeating myself entirely within the context of individual champions. It is important to talk about such details just in case someone doesn't have the time or desire to dig through my entire guide history, especially if some of it becomes outdated. In preparation for them and for future champion guides, I'm thinking of starting a pseudo-regular series where I record one of my ranked matches in spectator mode and talk about how team fights played out during it and what can be learned from them. I'm not entirely sure how the format would work yet, but I feel it will, at the very least, be helpful to those wanting to understand some of the intricacies of team fights, and at best will be helpful in ensuring that I'll be able to pull off a more general guide. Before I sign off, I have one last thing I want to talk about that happened really recently. YouTube has just enabled 60 frames per second videos to be played if you're able to go to 720p or above. Bear in mind this is only enabled on Chrome and Explorer. Firefox doesn't quite have it yet, and trying to watch it there ended up just caused it to freeze. Unfortunately, there won't be a huge impact on my channel despite this, simply because I don't have the hardware to get that kind of frame rate while recording. I am looking to eventually upgrade my PC, but it would require me to replace literally everything save for my hard drive and RAM. And that's something that I can't afford right now, and likely won't be able to afford for a while. If my videos continue to be 30 frames per second, that is why. Anyway, that's all I have to talk about, so I better go see to my homework. See you all later.
Right away.
By the light. By the light. You win. Well played.